In this video, we're going to be learning how to create a piece of pottery made out of ceramic, out of clay. And this is going to be a slab-built piece of pottery, which means we're going to be rolling out a flat piece of clay and forming it into some sort of a mold, which we'll use another bowl, or I think a plate, or you could even find a container with an unusual shape and use that. So your first step is to make sure your clay is thin and will be big enough for the bowl. So if I'm going to use this plate, my clay is not the right size. So I'm going to need to roll it out a little bit. So I'm going to take my rolling pin, and since it's a lot wider than it is long, I'm going to press with my two hands and roll it. Nice even pressure. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to actually turn it over carefully, and I'm going to do it again. Now you don't want the clay to get any thinner than the width of your pinky finger, like that. So mine is about right. It goes maybe just a little bit more. Let's see if it's big enough to make the plate. Oh, I think it's just right. So after I have that ready, I'm going to take the clay before I cut it, and I'm going to transfer it to a piece of fabric. If you don't use the piece of fabric, Mrs. Mulligan is going to have a very difficult time getting your clay out of the mold. So the fabric, it will help you lift it in and place it inside. So now I have my fabric. I'm going to use the container that I've chosen to cut out a shape. So I'm going to take this pin tool, and I'm going to just push it straight down into the clay, and I'm going to drag it, make it hit the ground of the board, and I'm going to drag it around. Pull off the extra clay, smush it in. Now gently peel out the rest of this clay. Do not smush it into a ball. You could break it into several pieces and stack it on top of each other, and then I'll teach you later how to wedge it so that we can reuse it again. Then I'm going to take my container off, and I'm going to lift up my clay. I think I might use my sponge right before I do that to just first smooth off the edges so I don't have any rough clay from where I cut it. You could do that with a damp sponge. You could do it with your fingertip. So you have a nice, smooth piece edge to work with. Now I'm going to lift up the fabric and place it on top of my mold. Make sure that the edges are fairly even. Use your fingers to feel it and push it side to side so that it's fairly even. Then I'm going to take my tennis ball. It feels pretty good. Take my tennis ball, and I'm going to gently press down and form the clay into. Now if you press too hard, this clay is pretty soft. So every tiny little impression that you do with your finger or with a tool is going to show up. So you want to start out very gentle, and then you can work up from there. Now I think it would look really nice to put some texture. There are lots of different ways you can do it. There's different tools. I have different pieces of fabric. I have stamps, and you could choose whatever you'd like to make your texture. So I think I'm going to use this nice lace doily because it's a perfect size for this plate. I'm going to place it in, smooth it out with my fingers, and then gently roll the tennis ball so that the clay is pressed by the lace doily. Make sure you get all the way around. You could use your fingers if there's a spot that you think it didn't get pressed in. I think that looks pretty good. And then maybe I will take my other texture tool and use my hand to support the edge of the clay and put another texture around the edge of my plate. Just pressing gently, supporting the edge of the bowl with my hand. All right, when I'm done, I'm going to need to reuse these doilies, so you're going to gently pull that out, and you should get a nice impression of your doily. And then at the beginning of the class, I will have had you write your name on a piece of paper and your class, 3, whoever you are. 3S for Miss Schaffner, 3SB for Miss Smith Baker. You have to write POTS or Polo, please, if you're in one of those classes. And then I'm just going to lay my piece of paper on top, and I will bring my bowl up to Mrs. Mulligan, and I'll put it on a tray. And then you go and wash up. Make sure you clean up all your tools and your hands. Now, if there's time left in class and you're finished before the end, you can help me by wedging this clay. It's all in a bunch of little pieces, and if there's air trapped in the clay will explode when I fire it. So it's very important that we don't do that. So I'm going to take these bits of clay and I'm going to smack them down on the table. I'm going to smack them down, and turn. And you're going to be banging and turning until you make nice little wedge clay. This is called wedging. Forces the air out of the clay. So you continue to do that for several minutes, and then I will collect up your clay and we'll be able to use it for something else. But today you cannot make anything else besides the bowl. There will be not enough time.